Hey, good evening, Silver Lining gang. It's Andy Reid here, host of the Silver Lining. And this is attempt number 3 at getting this woman onto the show. First time, Liana was getting pulled left, right, and centre. Second time, I will say I will blame it on the time zones and my fault on that. And now, thankfully, third time's a charm. We have Liana Kuperman, who is director of HR Advisor, which is a HR consultancy firm that freelances and supports businesses, medium, small, medium, large, with all of their HR issues, concerns. They outsource their HR needs to her, contracts and all that sort of jazz. And clearly has been just as much of a firefighter, counselor, psychologist, psychiatrist as she has been a HR consultant in what has been probably the most hectic time in any business's lives. Liana, how are you?
I'm good. I'm exhausted, just like so many other people at the moment, to be honest. But yeah, good. I'm doing really well. I'm really happy with I guess the position that I'm in at the moment, where I can sort of help people and I am luckier than potentially a lot of people out there. So I'm good. I'm staying positive, right? I need to stay positive.
Look, guys, I've known Liana only since the end of January, I think it was. But in that very short space of time, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. You don't have to be at the height of emotional intelligence to understand very, very quickly the type of personality Liana has. She is a little bit of a star when it comes to life, right? So she's soft skills, hard skills, whatever cliche terminology you want to put to it. She really has got an arsenal that is to be admired and respected. That's my opinion of you anyway, Liana. So I just love how you go about it. I really do. And that's what's drawn me to you straight away anyway. So before we crack on though, and we start regaling some war stories that I'm sure you might have about what's gone on recently, give us, it's always human first, professional second. That's how it rolls here on TSL. So give me a bit of an MO as to who Liana is outside of the HR umbrella.
Liana's very complex human. That's what I am. No, I am, I'm in my 30s. I am a passionate person. When I sink my teeth into anything that I do, I absolutely am, a control freak. And I'm living at home with my mum at the moment, which has been a blessing in disguise because, it's driving me crazy, to be honest. And if she listens to this, she'd be like, it's driving me crazy too. But yeah.
Isn't that just a healthy mother-daughter relationship though?
Yeah, exactly. But my husband there as well. But yeah, no, just a passionate sort of person. I like to do things outside of obviously HR. I like to travel, which we can't do. I love to socialize, which we can't do. So I'm sort of, in my own head trying to work everything out because everything that I want to do, I can't. The other day, my husband goes to me, restaurants. What's a restaurant again? Like going out to a restaurant and just having dinner out? What does that mean again? Like everything's changed at the moment. So yes, I'm maybe a bit of a different Liana at the moment.
But isn't it weird, right? Like every single sense, the first restaurant that you go to after all this sort of settles down, it's going to be crazy how much every single sense will be heightened. Sense, as you walk in. So when I was running bars and stuff like that, this is how we used to, ascertain what we needed to do in the bar. We always used to walk outside, at the time, have a cigarette or whatnot, and then walk back in with consumer eyes on with our senses heightened. We like really tune into it. And from the initial sense of warmth as you walk through the door, then the smell hits you, then you see the lighting, and then the noise and all that sort of stuff. It will be an experience, I reckon, even if you just go to a bloody McDonald's or something. I reckon it will be an experience that will it will
shock you.
It'll be a massive eye opener, right? Because you will notice things, you'll hear things, you'll smell things that you will have not even been on your radar, right?
Yeah, exactly. But like, as much as that is going to be the most phenomenal thing for people in this day and age, to go through something like that, like to go to a restaurant and then just all your senses get hit for that first time, and you're like, oh my God, is this what it is to be at a restaurant? Or is this, and like you said, you realize all these new things. What I'm scared of is the fact that everyone will get so used to it, and it will just go back to how it was, prior to COVID, and everyone's just going to be living their life. It's good to give it, life a bit of a jolt sometimes, so you can go back and appreciate everything that you missed that first time, So hopefully it doesn't happen again. But
100%. And that's something that I really want to dig into with you. Actually, is it's interesting how you use the word scared. Of society slipping back into previous habits, that previous sort of almost expectation / entitlement, right? Especially in the Western world, right? So and I really want to dig into that and tie it in with your experiences when dealing with businesses and what's been going on right now. And I'm sure you will have seen some messes that you've had to untangle, and some really sort of hairy scenarios, and some really crappy conversations, staff furloughing and all navigating the various sort of stimulus packages and all that sort of nonsense. But tell me, before we crack on, before I dig into that sort of fear that you have, which is valid in my opinion, tell me how it's been handling some of these businesses that are dealing with something that they would never have even remotely, accounted for. How's it been when you've had some of these initial phone calls, like, the degree of panic in the voice and whatnot? Give us a bit of an idea as to how it's been.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's intense. I'd say 90% of people that have contacted me have had that fear in their voice, A lot of the fear comes from not only the unknown, but for example, like, I have one client who they would never, ever allow their staff to work from home. It's just a thing. It's about the trust. It's about everything. And working from home is just something that, you wouldn't really want them to do. And now it's like, shit, I have to have my staff work at home. Like, they're not allowed to come to the office. I'm going to have to let them do it. And so all the staff are going, wow, this is amazing. We can work from home. But then it actually hasn't created anything better. I think the employers, fright about it all has heightened. And what they're doing is they're micromanaging even more, and they're trying to control the situation even more, because people know when you're scared, you need to try to take control of a situation, right?
Yeah.
So, you've got that basket of people who are just, things are going worse, and it's getting harder for the staff, for the managers trying to get through it all. And then you've just got a couple of those, people who just go, you know what, this is fine. We'll do it. We'll get our IT sorted. We just need to keep going. So I think it really comes down to the managers and the leaders that you have in the business. It doesn't matter if you had those processes in place before, because you didn't necessarily know what was coming. It's more about the fact of how are you going to deal with it moving forward, and are you going to bring your team along? Are you going to trust them? Some people have even said to me, and I had someone say to me today, it actually brought out a few of those people who are slipping under the radar. So it's interesting from an employer side, to understand what are the good things, what are the bad things they're finding. But people are freaking out. They just don't know, what to do with their staff, how to control their staff, and There's no right answer. That's the problem. You think that the right answer is trust your staff, right? You're paying them. You obviously have employed them, trust them. But that's not necessarily, what's happening, and everyone works really differently. So yeah, it's been really interesting to see how people are responding to this, from the get-go.
Very interesting observation that you make about the increased level of micromanagement that's going on, generally speaking, from a business perspective, especially if you look at sales teams which are largely autonomous, those sorts of service roles within businesses. Very, very interesting that you mentioned that. No one's really brought that up on the show so far, that from a management point of view, the silver lining is exactly what it says on the tin. But realistically, there needs to be a real strong degree of internal reflection as leaders, as managers, as directors, as CEOs, is to, really, that lack of trust that's felt in staff within the business is really a reflection on the spearhead, right? It's really a reflection on how that team is led, the confidence that's instilled on people, the ability as a leader to empower staff is very much being brought into question. And very, very interesting that you say that there is a heightened lack of trust almost, or a heightened need for reporting and so on and so forth, and more of an intense scrutiny on that. Understandable, right? Because when they're in the office, you can sort of keep an eye on them. You think you can keep an eye on them, but let's face it, if you're in an office environment, sales teams are checking the sport or checking the Facebook or checking whatever it is that they shouldn't be checking on anyway. So there's you can almost say that it's almost like a false security blanket having an office space, right? In terms of looking after people. And now I think it's been brought to everyone's attention that realistically, this isn't something that you should fear now. It's something that you should have already been aware of if that's the way that you want to lead. And I think a lot of people don't understand that what it's done is to find a line from a management style, from a leadership style, between those that do want to empower and entrust and give everybody the same amount of rope, and then if it's up to them to hang themselves, it's their choice. And the other ones on the other side. And one thing, and it ties in with fear of change. I think the ones that are real sort of control freaks in that respect are the ones that really struggle with change, right?
Yeah, exactly. And, to add another level of complexity, a lot of people, a lot of employers have now looked to, how are they going to remain viable through this and how they're going to keep operating. And so some of the things, obviously, that clients have done have, to reduce their staff's hours. So that's brought on a whole nother complexity because, they're reducing someone's hours. They're saying that, they're maybe even seeing that those people have finalized the work that they would generally do in full-time in a part-time capacity, or are they, really not working at all? Like, how is it all going? It's so interesting to see all the little, bits and cracks and things that are starting to show up through all these changes, whether it's from an employee's point of view, from an employer's point of view. So it's quite scary. It's really scary. And then on the flip side, and I know you're probably going to ask me, but on the flip side, some of the employees that have been coming to me, because the way I work is obviously I'm there as advice for the employer and I provide them with the support, right? But a lot of my clients will actually introduce me to their staff and say, this is our new HR consultant. She's there for you to contact anytime you need. If you have any questions, you can go to her. If you don't want to go to your own direct manager, right? Or someone internal in the business, because I'm an unbiased view. And I've had staff come to me and just freak out and go, I don't know what to do. I feel like my mental capacity, my mental well-being, is being compromised a little bit. I don't know how to feel. I don't know what to do. And in these times, I wish I would have finished my, psychology degree, because I really could have given them, a great chat too. But like you said at the start, I don't remember if it was before or not, but I need to be part counselor at times, not only for the employers but the employees, just to feel like they can talk to someone that they sort of know as well, instead of thinking, oh, do I need to call a counselor now, or should I go somewhere externally? So yeah, it's been a difficult transition, I think. Some people, again, have taken it really well and dealt with it, and some people not so much.
Now, your opinion when it comes to that employer-employee relationship, based on your observations and what have you, I'm quite interested to hear your answer to this. As a leader, as an employer, do you feel that, because there are some leaders, some employers that, being open with your staff, it's a bit of a tightrope, right? You don't know how much you need to tell them, how much you want to tell them. When is it oversharing? When are you overburdening your staff with responsibility? And if you're showing them the whole P&L and saying, look, guys, that's the reason why the bottom line's not working out, this, that, and the other. Some people feel that 100% transparency creates 100% accountability. Based on what you've seen in terms of how leaders, how employers have handled this, how do you feel would be the more appropriate way to go, given it how unprecedented the situation is?
Really interesting question. I really do think it depends on the environment. I know that's not an answer, but it really does, because I've had clients who've overshared, and then what's happened is the employers have said, mate, not my problem. It's, you're the employer, you're the owner of the business, work it out. Something needs to happen. I've got a family to feed, and I've got, I don't want to know about why it's not working or what's happening. I just need to know how it's going to get fixed, right? You're going to have those people, and that's okay. That's everyone is very different, and how they respond to that is fine. And then some people, use it to their advantage. I had someone say, oh, sales have gone up XYZ amount, but, here they've gone down. And because they've got access, for example, to the reports, they come back and say, well, actually, no, sales have, are here. And you're talking about sales being down here. So what does that mean? So why are you reducing my hours, or why did you, make that choice with me or my staff or whatever it is, when you're saying that we can't operate when I can see sales, and then some people are just saying, you know what, I trust guys. They haven't even asked a question. They're just like, you're letting us know that, things aren't going well. And you know what, at the end of the day, I really feel like in this environment, every person should really understand that everyone is going through something. Yes, some companies are probably going to do better than others, but realistically, everyone is going through something. And I think if employees understand that, the company is going through some sort of change, and they're trying to make decisions that work best for that, to deal with that change. I think that that's just a blanket assumption that most employees should have. And I know that that's unfair to say, and maybe I'm thinking more from the employer side, but that is the reality. I have literally seen every company go through something, whether it's good, whether it's bad. Everyone, every single person, man, dog, whatever it is, So I think
so it's been touched on a couple of times, and it's been interesting. So I've been really having these conversations with obviously yourself, but also people, recruitment consultants and whatnot. So Chanel McCasey, director of Titanium Recruitment, because she has, she's really about half a degree of separation from where you are, right? She's at the before and into the process, and you're the ongoing part of the process, right? The same thing, same sort of production line, so to speak. And we were talking about the need for individualization when it comes to management styles, like more so now than ever. But going forward, whether one, it's sustainable, but two, whether it's vital moving forward, because of the very point that you just said about everybody's going through different scenarios, different situations. It's created different pressures in different homes, right? You know, singles to couples, couples to couples with kids. You know, if they were under sort of marital strain beforehand, you know, is it made or broke them, so to speak? It's thrown up so many tremendously unique scenarios within the same sort of four walls. So would an answer to the question that I asked be like what you mentioned, understanding that every single person's scenario and situation is different, creating a degree of empathy within the workforce, that there is absolutely pressures going on in everyone's lives, but then handling each one of them on an individual basis. So, for example, you would share so much with someone who is very career driven, who has their mind in the game, so to speak, and then those that are that sort of, look, I just need food on the table, roof over our heads. You need to just give me direction, and handling them very, very differently, even though they may well be in the same position. Is there some validity to that?
Look, yes and no. What springs to mind for me is I always really believe in sending the same message to everyone. When you're in a company and you're the manager, there is no use for you to sort of tell A this and B that. I think it's really about sending the same message. But remember that every single person absorbs and deals and hears a different message, right? So if you're sending a message that you believe works for you and works for the company and is valid, I think that's what you need to do. You need to try to unify the message for everyone, but then everyone takes it on board differently. But then on top of it, what managers need to understand are because different people will react differently to that message. For example, they need to be open enough and flexible enough to say, hey, you over there, you took this information badly. Come and have a chat to me. Why? Let's talk about it more. I can deal, I have time to deal with you even more if you need it. Whereas B went off and goes, yeah, great message, thanks. I know what I need to know.
So I think the message there, which is absolutely brilliant, is have a universal message, but then ensure that it's contextualized, kind of like marketing, right? You know, you should be contextualizing your marketing to suit the consumer, and it's the same when it comes to that manager staff thing. You know, have that universal message so there is uniformity within the business, but then making sure that you are attuned to the way that it is being interpreted by each individual. It's interesting. Very early on in the series, we had a chat with Laura Ann Brown, who's a behavioral analyst, and she was talking about, because everybody, corporate land, I've said this a couple of times more recently, how value systems and value, the whole topic of values is being bastardized by corporate Australia, the corporate world. And as well as that, another thing that's been, I think, not being used as well as what it could is that disc profiling system. It's the understanding, the deeper understanding of each individual and how you can utilize that information to get the absolute best out of each individual human being, whilst at the same time understanding that there is one direction that we were all pulling in as a company, as a business, but how you can sort of moneyball process everybody into the right role or into the right environment. My mentor, Rick Rushman, always talks about giving people the right environment to thrive, whether it's individual, team or whatever, and referring to cultures and so on and so forth. But I like that you are really sort of, going at lengths to state that you need to maintain a universal message, a clear direction. I think now more than ever, when you talk about person B saying, look, I just need you to tell me what to do. Like, you need to just work this shit out and give us some sort of direction. And it comes back to one of our very original point, which is, indecision is worse than the wrong decision at this time, at this point in time. And very, very interesting how you need to show direction, but then you need to show, I think, would it be a case of management equals maintaining direction and leadership means making sure that everybody understands that direction? Would you say that that would be fair?
Yeah, and the word support. I think it's about the word support and being flexible. Again, you're going to listen to different messages. You need to give them the time of day. You need to give them some time to really explain themselves. But it's about being flexible. So, use your discretion. Try to set some sort of standard so that, person A doesn't feel like, oh, because I've asked more questions, I'm just going to be handed another day of work, whereas the other person just copped a reduction to 2 days per week now, and they're happy with it, so they've gone. Like, keep a consistency, but just offer your support and offer some sort of flexibility, but again, that should be coming from the employee's side, because again, the employer, the person who's owning the business, trying to run it, is human. And one thing that I have found between most of my clients has honestly been that they're doing everything in their power to make sure that the business is still operating on the other side of this. That is all they want. They want to be operating on the other side so that that person is still employed by them at the end of the day. A lot of businesses I've heard and I've seen and I've gone through have also terminated a lot of people, and these people are sort of in limbo. And I've now heard as well this new thing, and also by recruiters, that they're saying, this is the time to start looking for those star candidates who have just been let go and everything. And it's so true. Companies really need to, and I've really seen the positive side where companies are trying to somehow hold on, with all they can to their star staff and to people that they really value. And on the flip side, people are trying to, maybe maneuver things around to let go of the people they didn't really like too much. But it's just about coming back to that flexibility and the support. It's so imperative.
And that ties in with another thing that Chanel mentioned, which is, you might not, and this is where businesses, need to, and I'm going to ask you a question about denial in the economy right now. The whole topic of denying what the reality might be or whatever for each business. But Chanel mentioned about this whole thing of, look, you might not be in a position to be able to hire people right now. Like, you might not be. Might be one of those businesses that is copying it from the economy. But it's not to say that you can't grow connections and, show support to anyone that's in the industry that you feel might be a really, really good fit for your business when things do move forward and move on. And I thought that was absolutely profound. There is, yes, it's one thing, survival, part one, but you don't want to be in survival mode for longer than you have to, right? And, and this is a serious opportunity to not necessarily execute, but set those next checkpoints in place that you want to have in order for your business to really kick on in a much shorter space of time. There is no harm in doing business plans are completely out the window. I don't think there's one business plan that's that's legit. And if it is, it's not, absolute nonsense. Not worth the paper they're written on. But it's not to say that, look, we don't know what the time frame is, but we've got an idea as to where our path is going to go. And then once we have some degree of certainty around timeframes and so on and so forth, and we can set those checkpoints based on, whether it is financial position or revenue position or whatever the case may be, we can then start to really look at the other end of this and actually use it as a bit of a rope to try and help you get through it quicker, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and
now,
I totally agree with that.
now I want to talk to you about denial, because I think that the businesses that are panicking are have at least got a nervous energy to want to take action. I think that's a silver lining out of panic. You know, panic, it's that whole fight or flight thing. You know, your alarm bells in your brain are going haywire, and you just want to do something to make it feel like at least that you're moving forward. With your observations and your position in the position that you're in, how much of the business landscape, especially in terms of small businesses, also medium business, I would have thought, how much of that landscape is in denial still that, you know, this is going to leave an indelible mark on the way that everything is done? Like, give me a bit of an idea, you know, conversations that you had where you've potentially come out of that conversation and gone, are they not seeing the world, or what? You know, how much of that have you experienced?
So do you mean like denial in terms of they're just doing like business as usual and they're
Yeah.
just trying to like, yeah. Okay, interesting. I think 10% of people that I've spoken to are sort of in that stage, and it's a very interesting, you know, mindset to be in, because I've seen a couple, for example, be in that denial stage, tick on as they do, and suddenly something's hit them that they just did not see coming, you know, like another hit, another sale that's just dropped because an external person, you know, external company doesn't want to use them anymore just in case, and this and that. And they have to think so quickly on their feet because they're behind the curve of everyone else that's just been doing it for the last, let's say, couple of months and gearing up for it. And it's time. Like, one of the things that, you know, Fair Work says is try to give your staff as much notice as you can on certain elements of making, you know, major changes to the workplace and to their hours and to their salary and everything else. And sometimes these people now don't have time to do it, right? One of the things that's really shaken up is JobKeeper. JobKeeper suddenly came in, you know, here we're going to promise this amount of money, and then suddenly, okay, next thing you know, the rules have changed a bit. Okay, now you have to put in your, you know, payments and nominate people, and then, you know, things are constantly changing. But going back to your question, like, there are a few people in denial because they're just saying, no, I think things will be fine. It's going as usual, and I'm just going to continue as usual. And then, yeah, like I said, something just hits them from the side that they didn't even realize would come, and they've had to think really quick. I'm just trying to think. The only, you know, sort of companies that I see in a way that have not been hit too much, that I personally deal with, is, for example, in aged care. Of course, the restrictions and all the sort of elements that they have to adhere to now, and the safety regulations, and obviously the deaths, you know, in some aged care companies are horrific, and they're really sad that they're due to the virus. But I mean, things have continued as is, right? That's the reality. Then in no denial about how to try to forecast their business and that, because they have to keep going. They're just going just like they were the week before, the year before, trying to support, you know, the residents, the elderly, whether it's childcare centres who are trying to continue to support the children that are coming in, whether it's hospitals, you know. So yeah, it's a very interesting sort of type of companies that are either in denial and quickly snap out of it, or in denial because they have a right to be, maybe.
Yeah, interesting point. We're all very much of the knowledge, or the belief, sorry, not the knowledge, the belief that there is absolutely going to be collateral damage. There's going to be a big chunk taken out of the side of the economy, you know, already has, and will continue to do so. Would it be safe to assume then, you know, you've got businesses that, you know, are trying really hard and they're doing everything they can to keep going and keep the doors open and so on and so forth, they may just end up just running out of puff, and that's, you know, it's unfortunate. But would you say that the majority of that collateral damage will come from that group of ones that are in denial, where they just, you know, they just like they've put their fingers in their ears and they're just, you know, refusing to accept what is going on. And you think they're going to be the ones that will probably get swept away?
You know what? I don't know. I actually didn't think about that. Like maybe it's the silver lining and the positivity, but I really do think that maybe because they're persevering so much, they're just going to persevere through it. And you know, yes, maybe they're in denial at the moment, but I feel like a lot of the companies that are really just doing whatever they need to do to survive, whether they are in denial, you know, and of course there's going to be economists and financial people with their numbers who are going, Liana, you're wrong.
Whatever.
And that's okay. I don't know numbers. I know people. And when it comes to people and their mindset and their psyche and the way they do things, it comes down to persevering. And again, whether you're in denial or not, you're just going to continue and just get through it. And, you know, I really do think that a lot of people are going to come out on the other side okay. But that might be my naivety. I don't know.
No. I think a couple of points that I'd really love to just touch on from what you just said then is not necessarily a case of ignorance is bliss, but there could be some validity to the point that maybe there are a lot of businesses that have gone too far with change, right? There is a valid argument for businesses that have seen what's going on, panicked too much, and made too many changes that's ended up taking them on a path that wasn't right for that business model, right? You know, no one really talks about that. Sometimes in any sort of level of chaos and scenario, you know, like for example, you go through a cyclone. With a cyclone, sometimes it's better off to just stay the hell where you are, right? Yeah. And just cling on.
Or like if a bee is chasing you, you just stand still, and the bee will go away.
Yeah, exactly.
You, but it's a small percent, you know.
Exactly, right. And it's a hell of a lot better off than you know, running yourself into more drama potentially. So through panic, like you always see that in movies, right, where the heroes or the people are trying to survive the whatever catastrophe's going on in the middle. My folks, right? They had this Tower and Inferno, whatever it was called, old film, had O.J. Simpson in it, which was a little bit controversial, right? And it was this end scene where the whole thing was up in flames, and on this 135th floor, Steve McQueen and Paul Newman, I think, and they blew up. Why the hell they didn't think about this a lot earlier, I'm not sure, but they blew up the water tanks on the top of the building to flood the building so that the fire went out, and they had everyone tied up. But then there were people that saw the water cascading through, crapped themselves, got rid of the ropes, tried to run off, and ended up getting shot straight off the side of the building. And I think that's probably the perfect analogy for what's going on, right, in certain cases. You know, sometimes you just got to bloody anchor down and weather the storm. You know. Now the other thing that I wanted to mention about what you were saying just before is what you were suggesting around, you know, you're not good with numbers. You don't know numbers. You know people. And everything that everybody, and I've had loads of different people from all sorts of different walks of life, cut from lots of different cloths, come on this show so far. I've been, you know, it's been amazing. Every single one of them has talked about everybody's been becoming more aware about emotional intelligence and the need for soft skills and so on and so forth, empathy, blah, blah, blah. But I think that whole people over numbers has just been so at the forefront of everything that's going on right now, because, you know, yes, we all have to dance to the tune of the banks and the tune of the P&L and what have you. Yeah, absolutely. But if you've got a much heightened degree of focus on your people, you will find that the loyalty that will have been instilled in that environment, that will have been instilled in those people to the business, the loyalty to the business, loyalty to the leaders. This is when that loyalty really, really pays off in a huge, huge way, because you will get staff that, you know, you might not be able to pay them as many hours. They might go, look, that's all good. Don't stress. You know, I'm here for you. I'm still happy to be here for you. You know, I'm still side by side through this battle. And And alternatively, the ones that are so heavily focused on the numbers will get a lot more of those B-type people where it goes, man, I don't give a shit. I just want food on the table. Like, it's your problem, not mine. You know, and it really interesting that you say that, right? Because for me, you are a very, very calming influence. You've just got this aura of calm. I'm sure your husband may say otherwise, but for me, I can't see you getting angry much. I bet it happens. But you know, a little bit. But it's really interesting how, you know, a lot of people and a lot of alphas, right? A lot of alpha leaders would be finding that really hard. And I'd be interested to get your thoughts on, you know, I'm sure you will be dealing with businesses that have got sort of alpha type personalities at the forefront, at the top of the business. How have they handled this transition from numbers to people?
I think it goes back to exactly what I said before, where they were freaking out. They were freaking out because they were saying that, you know, we had control of the environment. We had control of the people. We knew what they were doing, you know, all day, every day. When they went to go to the toilet, they could see them. When they came late to work, they could see them. And now it's all about the trust. And it's interesting what's going to happen with those managers. You know, I'm scared. I'm thinking that they're waiting for all their staff to come back on, you know, they're trying to get them back to the office, right? They're trying to get them back straight away so that they can go back into that control mode. So a lot of them aren't necessarily going, wait a second, this is working. My business is still sort of going. It's still operating. Obviously something's working okay, that I'm letting go a bit and I'm allowing my staff to work in their own time and do their own thing. And that's what should be happening in an ideal world. But those people that are just those, you know, really heavily controlling sort of leaders or managers, they're freaking out. And what's worse is that they're putting even more pressure. Like I said at the start, they're putting more pressure on their staff, and their staff can feel it and they know it, and they don't like it. They don't want to be treated like they're, you know, they're not trusted. I think, you know, and it's so interesting because there are some people who know that, you know, I know that you can't trust me. I know that I can be a bit sneaky in that, but still, if you demonstrate that you don't trust me, I'm not going to like that, you know? And then there are some people who are actually doing the right thing, and they're like, why don't you trust me? I've never done anything for you not to, you know? So it actually puts doubt into so many people's minds. And so, you know, I know it's easier said than done, but I really feel like those employers who are feeling like they need to take control need to read a book. They need to go on YouTube. They need to do something to learn how to maybe try to take a step back. And, you know, if my husband heard this, he would die, because he's like, you're the biggest control freak. Like, how I can't. But you know, it's a lesson for me as well to really know, you know, you really do need to step back, and you need to put so much trust in your staff. And like you said before, those ones are going to shine, and you're going to come out of this bigger and better, you know. So
how do you feel, a bit of a loaded gun of a question this, but how do you feel, so those leaders who are, you know, itching at the trigger finger to get everybody back in the office, to, you know, like, right, time to resume action, and, you know, time to crack on, and, you know, in you come, back to, you know, how do you feel staff are going to react to that?
To be honest, I think they're going to be compliant at this stage. You know, people are scared about their positions, and you know, they're still scared. Like, it's now been a couple of months and a lot of change has happened, but no one knows what's going to happen. And even when restrictions lift, do I have a job? Is it secure? What are they doing with my hours? They've now reduced it. When are they going to put it back? What's going on? And so, to be honest, it's sad, but I think that they're just going to comply and just be like, yeah, okay, I'm coming back. I'm coming to the office, whatever you need me to do, so that I can still have my job. Or you have on the other side those people who are like, actually, stuff this. Like, you haven't treated me well when I was in the office. You haven't treated me well when I was out of the office. You know what? I'm going to go start looking at another job. And productivity, as soon as they walk back into the office, productivity actually falls because they're like, you know what? Maybe this isn't for me, you know? So again, it's about the support to your staff, no matter what, whether they're in the office or out of the office or working full time or 2 days. It's about supporting your staff and just listening to what they have to say.
Very, very interesting point. I actually thought it was going to be a different answer to what you said, but you know, what you said is so incredibly valid. Like, that is an observation that I think only people in your position or people like yourself would make, is you know, that inherent belief, that, you know, that inherent understanding that, you know, staff are just going to want to do whatever is necessary so that they don't get binned. You know, and that is a sad reality, right? That is, you know, it's a sad truth about that. That there will be leaders that will just understand that as well and crack the whip, and, you know, even use a fear tactic of, right, you got to come back into work, or, you know, we'll just find someone else that will. And that's interesting. And then, you know, it'll be an interesting landscape from a lead. Would there be, you know, I don't know. I know we're in uncharted territory, so I'm not going to hold you verbatim to it, but you know, what would be the potential ramifications of that sort of standoff scenario where you've got manager, you know, come back to work, government says you can, therefore you are, and staff who might have 2 kids and are still nervous around, you know, COVID situations and really want to try and still avoid that. I mean, how do you think that that's going to play out?
Yeah, it's very interesting. What I was telling clients and what the law around this is prior to people being directed to stay home. You know, the Act actually specifies that an employer must provide a healthy workplace. Okay, so there's a lot of information coming out now from Safe Work Australia, which is actually telling employers what measures they have to put in place now if they are going back into the office and are going back to work, what they need to put in place to have a secure workplace, because COVID isn't fully gone, right? So, you know, we might be flattening the curve, but who knows, when things slowly go back to normal, it might increase, it might come back, whatever. So employer has an obligation to create a safe workplace for their staff, not only physically, but with the virus, for example. If a staff member has evidence or feels that the employer hasn't provided them with a safe workplace, they can, you know, request or advise their employer that they don't want to come back to the workplace, or they can't, or for whatever reason, right? And the employer can't refuse that unless they have evidence to demonstrate, no, we've put everything into place for the safety. So if a company is putting all the safety measures into place, they need to, once this lifts and once they can go back to work. Unfortunately, the employee doesn't have that much say in being able to say, well, I like it this way. I want to, you know, I don't really want to come back right now, unless it poses a risk to their safety. So it's not a really good sign for employees. It's more in favor of the employers in that space. But again, support, flexibility, you know, maybe speak to your staff and say, you know, if a way to increase safety when returning is not bringing everyone back at the same time, and maybe making them, you know, half of them staying home 1 week, half of them staying in the office, you know, for maybe a month, and keep putting trials in place, you know, talk to your staff, see what works for them, try to, again, create a consistency for all staff, but again, remain a little bit flexible for potentially those that, you know, are really in dire need to stay home a little bit more. The childcare centre hasn't opened, or school hasn't opened, or something's happened. It's just about communication. So yeah,
that's a really interesting point. And you know, over here in the UK, Amazon have got like a media release out over here where the head of Amazon UK is literally saying what measures they have put into place to ensure the safety of not only the consumer journey, but also the employee journey. So talking about the very thing that you mentioned there, you know, staggering shifts, you know, doing split shifts for various people, and allowing, you know, for that extra space required in order to keep your safe distances, and so on and so forth. And that's the sort of the level of dynamic thinking that leaders really need to have right now is you know, you need to be, I think the universal message could be to staff is to say, look, as we integrate back into whatever the new normal is and looks like and feels like, we don't, like, none of us know what the right formula is. Therefore, and I don't think this is oversharing. Over the course of the next few weeks, we are going to be trialing different methods of scheduling, timetabling hours, and what have you. Ensuring that your employees understand that it will not necessarily affect, or, you know, it will affect your hours by X amount max. But we're you know, our highest, the top priority we have right now is the health and safety of you as our employees. I think that wouldn't be oversharing, and I think that would provide a degree of collaboration that is 100% required. You know, it really needs to be employer-employee singing from the same hymn sheet, which I know is a very obvious thing to say from a business point of view, but with regards to the integration of you know, the new norm and existing business models and existing staffing structures, it really needs to be a collaborative workshop type environment when it comes to making these changes happen and understanding what will work for most people. And, you know, it might work, you will never get something that will satisfy 100% of your workforce, but it will get like 90% if you do it this way. Or we've discovered that in a very short space of time that we've pissed off 50% of our staff. Maybe we need to scrap that one and start again. You know, but then the opportunity of that is to, you know, well, we've got a blank slate. We can set a real difference for our staff that will enable us to give them, you know, give them some life back, provide greater degree of flexibility, maybe allowing some operations to allow for utilizing more of the clock, more of the 24-hour clock, right? So instead of being restricted to, you know, 8 a.m. or 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. staggered starts, you might find that people are happy to do 2 10s and, you know, 4 12s or whatever, and providing a greater degree of productivity potentially out of this extra flexibility.
Yes, except just know, anyone who's listening who's a business owner who's thinking of doing that, there's obviously regulations in terms of in an award, you know, and this is getting a bit technical, but it's good to know. They say that if your employee is going to be working beyond X time, like 6 p.m., 7 p.m., that's actually considered overtime potentially. And again, that's if they're covered by the award. So just be conscious of that. But yeah, definitely if you're on a, you know, salaried, like a salary, an annual salary, and you can work with that flexibility, then 100% be providing as much flexibility as you can to your staff. And look, and, you know, my real belief is in 6 months, 7 months, you know, things may slowly go back to normal and things will get back to the norm. But those companies that are thriving, those companies that are connecting with their employees, like you said, collaborating and just really continuing to have a strong bond with their staff, and the staff in turn are really trying to be flexible for their employers, they're going to be amazing through all of this, you know, in 6 months, 12 months, when things go back to normal and you can walk into a restaurant and sit down, they will still remember how amazing their employer was during this shit time, you know. So yeah,
and the memory will last long. You know, if you're an employee and you've been looked after, just the degree of loyalty and want to serve will be heightened naturally, right? Which is great. Look, Liana, I'm real conscious that we've taken up a hell of a lot of your time, and it's getting towards bedtime, and you've been working extremely hard. And look, I just wanted to thank you for one, persisting with your appearance and coming on the show. Thank you very much for that first and foremost. But I think we need to. I think the business world needs to thank people like yourself that are actively providing so much support beyond your remit. I'm sure, beyond what you should be charging. I'm sure, but I just think I just think that people like you are going to be the difference makers when it comes to businesses that survive or don't survive. And for that, on behalf of the business community, I just want to say thank you, because you're a bloody, I do genuinely believe that you're a bit of a star. And guys, and business land, if you want to reach out to Liana, tell us how we can reach you, please.
Yeah, of course. Yep. So you can email me at Liana, so LIANA at HRADVISER.com.au. So Liana at HRadvisor.com.au. Otherwise, please call my mobile anytime. Even the weekend, I'm still working. 0421 815 191. Any stalkers out there who want to, call me as well. I'm okay with that. My husband's okay with that. So
even if you're bored, just call
my number line, whatever. So that's my email just down there.
Fabulous. And it's www.hradvisor.com.au. If you want to find out more about the things that Liana can do and that can assist your business moving forward, I would highly advise that you have a look at what she can do and reach out to her and see if there's some compatibility, because I think especially for small to mediums, a HR department is just the last thing that you can afford. So, but it's almost one of the most important components of anybody's business, because it's all about your people. If you ain't got your people, you haven't really got much of a business. So, Liana, thank you so much for your time. You don't understand how much I appreciate it. You don't understand how much other people will appreciate it. And you go enjoy what's left of your evening, and no doubt we'll speak to you soon.
Thank you so much for having me, Andy. It's been awesome talking to you, as always. So I'll have to do it again sometime.
All right, you take care.
See ya. Bye.
Enjoy your weekend, gang. We'll speak to you soon on The Silver Lining.